Je suis ici pour manger vos cerveaux. Brains. Manger vos cerveaux. Que feriez-vous?
Did a couple of you for video you sent by mistake. I was trying to figure out how to video. I was like, oh my god, he showed me last week. I'm like, I don't even know I didn't know how to do it. So I just like, let me just do this, and then I sent it by accident. I was like, oh, you know what? Okay, whatever. Just send it.
That's okay. That's good. That's fine. Non, c'est pas de souci. Ouais, c'est pas grave. So it's hard about it's a C1 test, and what was hard on the one I was looking is that one of the sample texts is like, it's kind of like you're reading a contract for something, and you're like reading, and then it's like asking you questions about like the fine print. So it's like if I give you an English like contract, it's like, hey, so here's this contract. So when can you cancel the contract, and what are the consequences? Like even in English, you're reading it, and you're like, well, I can cancel here, but then you have to really think about it sometimes because of the way contracts are written, right? So, because there's like fine print, there's like, you know, it's not just plain English. Or like if you're given a legal document, like, it's hard. It's that kind of Spanish, where it's like, it's very high level. And so that was like, I was reading it and I was like, man, this is not easy. I'd have to really study for this to make sure I can pass it. Even the writing, like what they're expecting you, it's like very, very academic. So it's hard. It's not like, hey, are you fluent in Spanish? It's like, hey, are you fluent in Spanish, but also apply, like, do you have a really deep knowledge of the language? To the point where, like, I think that a lot of native speakers would be like, oh, this is not easy. Just finished teaching all my Skype lessons for the day. Now I have to hurry up and leave my house so I can teach all my in-person lessons, and then I have to go to the University of Calgary for a meeting that I have. It's a big, big, big day. That's okay, because tomorrow is basically basically a half day because we have a big thing for my grandpa's birthday. Now, I want to rant on two quick things as I get ready to leave my house here. Number one, quick little rant is the following. Excuse me. As a teacher, I think one of the big things you got to do is build student confidence, because honestly, I feel like the self-confidence is, I'm huffing and puffing. One of the big things that's lacking. What I mean by that is often students are very self-conscious and they're not confident in the knowledge that they actually have, and because of that, they don't speak, they don't use the language, right? So my big belief is that you need to, as a teacher, build your students' confidence, and not fake confidence, like real confidence. You need to be like, hey, you have the knowledge to talk about X. If they have it. If they don't, then give them the knowledge, help them with it, right? But you need to give them real confidence with real compliments, real feedback, but don't BS them, right? Like real stuff. And that's a huge, 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 huge piece. I think number two is, I think people overcomplicate things in languages. What I mean by that is, especially if you're not super, super fluent, which is most of the time the case, even when you are fluent actually, I think a lot of people, they're trying to communicate something and they're trying to use language that is way too complex for the vocabulary they have. And often you can talk about lots and lots of different things if you just chose to use some simpler language. Instead of saying this big, long, convoluted sentence, dumb it down and use some simpler vocabulary. So for instance, instead of saying, for example, oh yeah, you know, I went to the movie and saw this frickin' amazing, wicked movie. Like, man, you know, I can't wait to do that again, for example, right? You could just say, in your second language, your foreign language, like, I went and saw a really good movie, and I want to see more really good movies. Why not? You could say it. You don't need to overcomplicate things. So simplify your language, simplify your vocabulary, and you'd be shocked at suddenly how many different types of things you now can talk about. Crazy stuff. You guys have to give it a shot. Try it out. So go ahead. So Alien comes in. Et tu? Que ferais-tu? Est-ce que tu parlerais avec lui? Est-ce que tu parlerais avec l'extraterrestre?
I don't understand.
Vas-y, mais est-ce que toi tu parlerais?
Like,
Ouais, c'est ça. Est-ce
Oui,
que tu...
oui,
Ouais.
oui. D'abord, is it first way? D'abord, I would look. No, I would find
There you go.
out.
Oh, look. Okay.
So that would be, what's look? What is it?
Regarde.
Regarde. So, je regardais. No.
Regarde.
Oh, regarderai.
Uh-huh.
Je regarderai qui langue il parle, like what he speaks. Like, you know the movie?
Oui, oui.
Yeah, so,
Ouais,
yeah.
ouais, c'est ça.
Mais I would say, so, je parlerai que, pourquoi tu es ici?
Okay. Et si l'extraterrestre, s'il dit, je suis ici pour manger vos cerveaux, brains, manger vos cerveaux, que feriez-vous? Pleurer.
No. I would outsmart him. No, okay. Hablamos en el pasado, es lo mismo, ¿no?
Igual.
Okay.
Igual.
Sí, mi cerebro está aburrido. Muy.
¿Sí?
Y sí. Siempre quiero escuchar algo
Pero
en mi casa.
¿tú tienes tu bachelor's en
Sí. No, en
psicología?
No. Estudié un par de clases de psicología, pero es en ciencia, political science.
Just like how your teacher says right now that, être and avoir are your two best friends, your teacher will also say, Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp are also going to need to be your very good friends. Why? Because this is an acronym for a bunch of verbs that don't follow this rule with these G's, but follow a different rule. So, I'll give you the verbs first, and then we'll go through what the rule is. Just finished teaching a whole bunch of different lessons, guys, and I don't know if you guys saw it from the video clips, and I guess podcast people, since I'm recording this as a podcast thing too, you guys definitely didn't see it because you only get the audios, you don't get to see visuals and videos, but basically what I was trying to show is a little bit more about how I feel like you have to adapt to the students that you have. So for example, right, like when I was teaching, I think the first one was French. It was a group French lesson. These people really want to practice speaking. And so things that I'm trying to do is give different conversation topics and guide the direction of the talk so that the students can speak and practice as much as possible, right? And I'm really only jumping in to fix like fatal errors, quote unquote fatal errors, things that are like really, really far off that I think need to be course corrected, or things where they just don't remotely have the knowledge to say the types of things that they're trying to say. So for example, we were covering off a specific grammar tense in French that they had never really done before, right? So I think that's kind of that first lesson. I had another one, that was the last one I was doing, where it was like 90% like writing, basically reading, writing, because for him it's like the primary measure of his success in French comes from what happens at school. And at school, he just has to do really well on his tests. And so all I'm trying to do, because right now he's a little bit ahead, because he started taking French with me before actually going to school for French. So I'm just trying to keep him ahead. I'm trying to show him things, show him the rules, explain to him all the different rules, the different concepts, in the same way that he's probably going to hear them in school, so that when he hears it in school, when he learns it again, it's not the first time he's heard it. And not only that, he's also hearing it the same way from me as he did in school. And since I went through the French immersion school system in my city, I'm more or less familiar like how things are going to be, like how concepts are going to be introduced to the kids. Not always, but often I can have a very accurate guess. So it's just adjusting, right? It's adjusting based on the needs, based on the learning style, based on the student. You got to reverse engineer every student, right? So anyway, I'm off to a different event right now. It is an ESL event, an English second language event. So people who speak English as not their first language. I really believe in becoming a part of different language learning communities in like locally as well as globally, like using the internet. and or me being the person who creates those communities. So you guys, anyone in my city knows I have lots of different events that I do to create those kinds of communities, but I also am always trying to go and join these different types of community and giving my time, giving my efforts, etc. I just believe it's just the right thing to do, and it's a very smart business decision for me as well, at least in my perspective.